what happened? Why are we in this mess that we're in? Chuck talked about. There's two pivotal dates, and I'm going to try to rush through this. One is 1865. Now, we know what happened in 1865. That was the end of the war between the states, often called Civil War. I'm from Charleston. We call it a lot of things. It's the war between the states. It's the war of northern aggression. It's the war for southern independence. The one I like the best is the war to prevent southern independence. That probably is more descriptive. And you got to be careful here because you get into some political correctness here, and people say, "Oh, you're in favor of slavery." No, absolutely not. Give me a break. There's no reasonable, rational person on the face of the planet today that would support that. It was morally wrong. It was an evil in this country. It's a blight. We're still paying a lot of the prices for that. But certainly slavery was an issue. My research would indicate it was not the issue. There were a lot of issues. There were economic issues. There were sovereignty issues, constitutional issues. There were things of this. Slavery was one of them. But I don't think it was the pivotal issue. But it did get all wrapped up in there and created some problems. But be that as it may, a lot of changes took place in the aftermath of 1865 in terms of the power of the federal government going beyond some of its jurisdictional boundaries. I think that's a historical fact. And then this one. This is one we don't think about a lot. 1947. Anybody know what kind of was a pivotal event in the history of this nation in 1947? Let me tell you what I think. Yes, sir. No, well, maybe, but that's not the point I was looking for. Let me give you this. It was a Supreme Court decision called Everson versus Board of Education. And in Everson versus Board of Education, for the first time in history, the Supreme Court, in defiance to all precedent prior to that, said from now on, because of our interpretation of the 10th and particularly the 14th Amendment, the Bill of Rights now does no longer apply just to the federal government. The First Amendment no longer applies just to Congress, Apparently, some of these Supreme Court justices were not smarter than a fifth grader. Where's Jeff Foxworthy when you need him? But they read that First Amendment and they came to a different conclusion. And now, since that day, the Bill of Rights has applied, according to the Supreme Court, to other branches of government and other levels of government. And now we see this imposition of federal authority saying, you can't have the Ten Commandments in front of the state Supreme Court in Alabama. You can't put a nativity scene up in the front of your town hall. You can't open your county council meetings with prayer. The citizens of Great Court, South Carolina, cannot open up their council meetings with prayer. You cannot post the Ten Commandments in a public place. You can't have a graduation ceremony in a public school or a football game or whatever open with prayer. Folks, the reason, listen to me very carefully, the reason we have abortion on demand in every state in America is because of this ruling right here. Because the federal government has all of a sudden come in and said that the Fourth Amendment gives a woman an expectation of privacy, which is not found in any of those documents either, to an unborn baby in her womb, and therefore she has a right to terminate the life of that child. The stuff that means a lot to us as Christians and constitutionalists in America today can be traced back to this.